Hello, internet users. You know what I like? Hilarious knockoffs. Over the years, there's been countless examples of people looking at a successful idea and then trying to cash in on its popularity by doing the same thing, but not nearly as well. Back when I was a kid, there was one of these things that really stood out to me, a now cult classic series known as Duel Masters. Duel Masters was a franchise that was created in the early 2000s. It was seen by many as an obvious attempt to cash in on the popularity of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which at the time was in its prime with its own show, trading cards, toys, and many video games. Duel Masters, of course, also being a show that was centered around trading cards, desperately tried to do everything that Yu-Gi-Oh! Was doing. It clearly didn't work out though, as the show stopped airing in North America after only 2 years, with the English version of the card game being discontinued shortly after. Around where I lived, the show only managed to be the flavor of the month before it faded away into obscurity. Apparently though, to this day it remains extremely popular in Japan. But during its short lifespan in the West, among some of the merchandise they pushed out were a few video games. Today we're going to be taking a look at 3 of them. A trilogy released for the Game Boy Advance. Could they perhaps be some lost gems on the system's library? To find out, let's jump into the first of the games, Duel Masters Senpai Legends. And before you ask, yes, that is the real title of the game. Right off the bat, the first thing we see is some brilliant animation that makes the Zelda CDI cutscenes look like masterpieces. Now, if a face like this isn't a sure sign that we're in for a good time, then I don't know what is. In Senpai Legends, we play as Tom, a regular kid who, like everyone else in this world, is obsessed with the Duel Masters trading cards. The game begins on Tom's birthday, where his dad gives him a super rare card that had belonged to his grandfather. Because I guess apparently anime card games were a thing back when Grandpa was a kid. But that same night, someone breaks into Tom's house and steals the card. And because Tom has the greatest parents in the world, instead of calling the police, they tell him to head to another town on his own, to find and hire a detective that will help get it back. From here, our journey begins. Now the first thing you might notice about this game is that everything is pretty awkward looking. Everybody kinda just looks like a blob with a head pasted on it. And that's just for the overworld. When you enter into a duel, you're in for a really nice surprise. The artwork in this game is really bad. It's to the point where I actually have trouble believing that someone calling themselves a professional was hired to draw it. I feel that it's more likely that one of the programmers got their kid to do it or something. It's no surprise that the box art looks pretty generic, instead using official art from the TV show. If someone saw anything like this on the cover, they'd never buy it. They'd probably think it was some kind of bootleg. Just look at them, these have to be the most... wow. Well, if any of you out there think you suck at drawing, just remember, there is someone in the world that got a paycheck for making this thing. I could honestly go on about the visuals for hours, but for now let's get back to this game's, story. Yeah, let's call it that. Soon after we leave home, we meet the detective and request his help in retrieving our stolen card. However, we are unable to afford his services. As a compromise though, he offers to take our case if we can acquire a medal by winning this town's Duel Masters tournament. Unfortunately though, we can't enter that tournament until our reputation level is at least 5. In order to increase our reputation, we need to go out and win some duels. This game is an RPG, with the battles being when you play the card game against another person. Every time you win, you get experience points towards increasing your reputation, and a booster pack containing 5 cards. To this game's credit, it does seem to emulate the card game pretty accurately, and the interface actually does look alright for a Game Boy Advance game. At first I did think it played a little too slow, but once I realized that you could increase the speed of the AI and the options, that was no longer an issue. It's pretty clear that all of the developers' effort went into just this one aspect of the game. The card game itself plays like a simplified version of Magic the Gathering. This is because the creators of that game had a hand in the creation of Duel Masters as well. The tutorial teaches you the basics alright, and after a while of getting used to the rules, I found that I was getting more into it than I thought I would. I started by having my entire deck made up of the Nature Civilization, and slowly worked in cards from the Darkness one as I earned them. Eventually, I managed to put together a well-balanced deck. The more I played, the more I realized what kind of cards I needed more of, and which ones needed to be swapped out for something more useful. Even though Duel Masters isn't really my cup of tea, and I'd still play Yu-Gi-Oh! Over it any day, I did surprisingly enjoy myself after investing some time into it. However, I want to stress that when I say that, I'm talking about the Duel Masters trading card game. When it comes to the video game, Senpai Legends, this is one of the worst games I have ever played in my life. I've already talked about the low quality of the artwork, but believe me, it does not stop there. Returning to where we left off, at this point we have to level up our reputation to participate in the town's tournament. And this is where we come to the biggest problem about this game. This is the only thing you do in the game. You grind until you're a high enough level to enter, win the tournament, and then go to another town and do the exact same thing all over again. There is no variety in anything you do. The game has you continuously running around in a circle trying to act as though you're making progress. Your reputation level is meaningless outside of being an excuse to pad out the playtime. Every location even looks the same. Would you believe me if I told you that all of the footage I've been showing up to this point was from 4 different towns? All of them are nearly identical, aside from having a building or two being in a different spot. And in every tournament, you fight the same 2 kids every time. There isn't even anything unique about their decks. Nobody in this game seems to have any advanced strategies, or even a name. I don't understand why I have to do all this. Look, after I win this one tournament, the detective appears just to tell me which town tournament to go to and win next. And that's it. After all of the grinding I just did, I get 2 boxes of text, and I immediately have to repeat the whole process all over again. This game is horribly repetitive. No matter how into Duel Masters you may be, you are going to get bored of playing this fast. It's nothing but duel after duel against ugly, recolored, nameless characters. Another horrible thing about this game is how it handles random encounters. While you're walking around the overworld, you will come across these frequently. The screen will go black, and there'll be someone in the center of the road wanting to challenge you to a game of Duel Masters. No thanks, kid. I kinda have something a little more important to take care of right now. Where are you going? Home to your mommy? What? So when you decline to play against someone, sometimes they trash talk you in the most lame way possible. Ahahaha! Run! Run! Calm down, man. It's just a trading card game. It doesn't even make sense for random encounters to be in this game. You can duel almost anyone in the towns as much as you want, and there isn't any punishment in running away. As well, it's not like most other games where you can wrap up the battle quickly. If you accept, you have to play the card game. Who the heck would say yes to every single challenge when you can more or less duel the same kids in any town at your own leisure? The whole mechanic is pointless, and it only manages to be an annoyance. It feels like it's just there for the sake of being there. Another thing that annoys me about this game is that there is very little variety in what the NPCs can say. Before I even got through my first hour, I swear I had heard every possible thing that could be said to me. Most of the generic characters do not have anything unique to say. All of them say something random from a list of predetermined responses. Believe me, it will not take you long until you're sick of hearing everyone ask if you're gonna run home to your mommy. Did they really not have time to even write boring lines of dialogue for their NPCs? This, combined with the ugly assortment of art that goes with them, makes for an all-around hollow and lifeless experience. In terms of design, Senpai Legends is about as basic as you can possibly get. There isn't a single thing that's unique or remotely interesting about the world, story, or characters. I swear, it's as if I'm playing a kid's first game in RPG Maker, except even those are more fun than this. I'm actually kind of stunned at how something like this was able to be released as a commercial game. Did they just program the card game and throw everything else together in a few hours? So after you win a few tournaments, when you're on your way to the next one, you come across this old woman. Upon attempting to walk by, she will take your cards and mix up your deck. And now you have to spend a few minutes in the menus rebuilding your deck from scratch. Because that's fun, right? And after another session of leveling up for the next tournament, surprisingly, instead of the same anime abomination, the final round has you duel against the old woman instead. Once you win, you find out that she took your medal from the receptionist by claiming to be your mother. As for how she got away with that one, I don't know. Woman looks like she's old enough to be my great-grandmother. So after following her, in order to get our medal back, we have to duel her. Because, you know, we didn't just do that a few minutes ago. After defeating her for the second time, a TV that just so happens to be nearby turns on and informs us that the card thief is in a city that only the most elite duelists can get into. Wow, this game's story fills me with feelings of wonder and intrigue that have me on the edge of my seat. And by that, I mean I'm about to get up and leave the room. After this, we get access to the other half of the world map. And what's there, you ask? Why, what else could there be but 4 more identical towns, each with their own tournament I need to win? Nope. Ain't gonna happen. I'm done. I don't care what happens next. I don't care how it all ends. I am not playing any more of this. Like I said before, even if you're into the card game, you're not going to be able to enjoy this. There's nothing else here that's worth your time. It's just one of those games that was rushed to the store shelves to add to the list of merchandise that they could say they had for sale. Next, we're gonna move on to the second game, Duel Masters Kaijudo Showdown. And you should get excited, kids, because this game has one amazing feature that the previous one didn't: choosing what your character looks like. Don't like the look of your main character? Well, why not try out this instead? Or this? Or how about this? So this is what it would look like if Sonic the Hedgehog had a child with Wario. Well, if their goal here was to make the most visually unappealing main character in video game history, I think they just set an unbreakable record. And can we all just take a moment to appreciate how edgy this one is? I'm gonna go ahead and stick with this classy fella, though. His name? How about Cancer the Human? Original character Do Not Steal. The game begins with our character saying goodbye to his brother, who was going away for a long time. But before he goes, he gives us his entire Duel Masters trading card collection. We then get to roam around the town, playing against the other residents. This time, instead of traveling around on a big overworld map, everything is a lot more compact. You have to continue to win at tournaments at the local card shop until you eventually get to compete at bigger tournaments in other towns. Random encounters have also been completely removed. Honestly, this is a way better idea than what was done before. But that being said, this game still is not very good. The laughable artwork returns, and somehow it manages to look even worse than what was in the last game. The way the game handles its NPCs' lines is also the same. There is just a short list that every character randomly reads a line from. You'll nearly have all of it memorized after you play for just a little while. It's just more bland stuff that you... Wait, why did the lion spit out the clown? Because it tasted funny. Okay, that's kind of weird to just throw in like that. What do you call a blind dinosaur? I don't know. Do you think he saw us? What did the Buddhist say to the hot dog salesman? What? Make me one with everything. No, there's no way. They couldn't have. Nobody would go this low. Why was the bee's hair sticky? I don't know. Because he used a honeycomb. What did the dog say when it sat on sandpaper? I don't know. Rough. I can't even believe this. They were so lazy with this game that instead of writing more dialogue for their characters, they just copy and pasted a bunch of lines from a kid's joke book. I'm nearly speechless. No exaggeration, no kidding around. This is one of the most disgusting things I have ever seen in a video game. The level of how much they had to have not cared is astounding here. This is literally the first area you have control of your character on, and they've already run out of ideas. I didn't even think it was possible to screw up this badly. If I still did live bits on this show, this would be the part where I pull out my prop gun and shoot the cartridge. Then again, I suppose I really shouldn't be that surprised. After all, how could I have expected this sequel to be a masterpiece when it was released 5 months after the first one? The only thing that Kaijudo Showdown has over Senpai Legends is the fact that it has more cards to use. Other than that, it's another trash game. It even has the nerve to call itself cool at the start in an email that's sent to you. If they didn't want to put the slightest bit of effort into it, then I'm not going to bother continuing to play it. We're putting this one to rest and moving on to the final game, Duel Masters Shadow of the Code. The game begins with another stellar cutscene showing the main character in the middle of a duel. As hilarious as that grin looks, it's still quite a step up from before. Something that bugs me with this, though, is this shot here. Instead of drawing a crowd, they just straight up took a frame from the anime and awkwardly fit it in there. This game does start off much better than the other two. You have the options of selecting a pre-built deck or building one from scratch. Not only that, but it even has cutscenes. No joke, this entire opening sequence gave me more plot and character information than what I got from my entire experience in Senpai Legends. This time around, we don't get to choose a look for our character. I'd like to believe that it's because the developers realized it was an awful idea, but I'm pretty sure it's just because they didn't want to have to make multiple versions of all the images. This game came out nearly a year after Kaijudo Showdown, and it actually seems like they put that time to use. For starters, there doesn't seem to be any repeating characters. In the previous two games, you'd see the same kids everywhere, sometimes in another color, but here, everyone is one of a kind. However, they still cut some corners. You can clearly see that some of them are just redrawn versions of what was in the other games. Unfortunately, there is still only a tiny list of things that they have to say. I really don't understand why they couldn't just write more. Would it really have been that difficult? It's just NPC dialogue, for crying out loud. The art for Shadow of the Code is definitely an improvement, but that isn't saying much at all. In my opinion, it's still pretty ugly looking, and gives off a strong discount anime vibe. And I swear, looking at all these characters makes me convinced that this game takes place in the same universe as the Nut Shack. Overall though, as a whole, this game is actually okay. Instead of just hoping to get rare cards from booster packs, you can compete in specific challenges to earn some of them from almost every NPC. And in the tournaments, you can increase your rewards if you enter using a deck with multiple civilizations. The more you use, the more difficult it becomes to win. This, in addition to having the most available cards to collect, easily makes this game the best of the trilogy. But don't get me wrong, at best I'd just call it a really average game. If you're into Duel Masters, then Shadow of the Code is the only one of the GBA titles that you should check out. But if you're not, then there really isn't anything here. And that was the Duel Masters trilogy. Quite honestly, they're some of the worst RPGs I've ever played. They were likely given a tiny budget, and everyone involved probably didn't have the slightest care whether or not the final product was good. It did show me a bit of the card game, but honestly I'd rather just go play the real Magic the Gathering instead of this. The only way I could recommend these games to anyone would just be to see how horrible the content is. Even as a sim for the card game, their appeal isn't that strong. At least for me anyway. But after my experience with all three of these, I'm perfectly okay with never touching them again.